Ever feel like you're just scratching the surface online? Like there's this whole hidden world, digital bank vaults just waiting for someone to crack them open.
It's like that, yeah. And today we're going right into that world. Bug bounty hunting.
With a guide by Yoas Antonio, right?
Yeah, and this is a guy who doesn't just know security. He's been shaping it for like over 2 decades. This isn't some fly-by-night guru.
20 years, that's serious time. And it's not just the years, it's where he's been spending them,
Yeah.
leading projects for OWASP.
Exactly. Open Web Application Security Project. They basically set the gold standard. So when this guy talks about finding bugs, we should probably listen.
We're learning from the best here. Okay, so one of the first things that jumped out from his guide, public versus private bug bounty programs. What's the deal there?
It's kind of like, imagine a huge music festival, right? Anyone can show up. Everyone's there for the music. That's your public program.
Open doors, come on in.
Exactly. Now, picture a super exclusive club. Velvet rope, you gotta know a guy. That's your private program. Companies use those for their really high-stakes vulnerabilities, the stuff they don't want just anyone poking around in.
Makes sense. So why would a company go private? Is it just about keeping things hush-hush?
It's about trust, mostly. You don't want just anyone having access to your company's crown jewels, right? So they handpick these security researchers, like a special ops team, but for bugs.
Okay, so whether it's a public party or a private investigation, you still got to get paid, right? That's where VDP versus BBP comes in.
Right, and this isn't just semantics. It's a fundamental difference, like finding 20 bucks on the street versus winning the lottery.
Okay, so VDP, that's our 20 bucks on the street.
Vulnerability Disclosure Program. You find a flaw, you report it, maybe you get your name on a website somewhere. It's about doing the right thing, being a good digital citizen.
And BBP, that's hitting the jackpot.
Bug bounty program. Yeah. These are programs where companies put a price tag on their vulnerabilities. We're talking thousands, sometimes millions of dollars for finding the really critical flaws.
Now, that's some serious motivation. No wonder everyone's trying to become a bug bounty hunter these days.
Well, it's not as easy as it sounds. Finding those vulnerabilities, it takes serious skill. It's like, you know how in those heist movies they have someone casing the joint, figuring out the security system?
Yeah, scoping it out, finding the weak points.
That's what these bug bounty hunters do, but in the digital world. And our guy, Yoas, he lays out some pretty cool techniques for uncovering those hidden vulnerabilities.
Let's get into it. I always find examples are the best way to really wrap my head around this stuff.
For sure. So one thing Yoas talks about is reconnaissance. It's basically like mapping the digital landscape of a company. But it's not just finding their website. It's about finding all those little back doors and side alleys.
So like not just the front door, but all the ways in through the chimney and the basement windows too.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got these techniques. Like, have you ever heard of favicon hash searching?
Favicon, like that little icon you see in your browser tab?
Yeah, exactly. Each one has a unique code, like a fingerprint. And you can search for that fingerprint to find other websites or servers using the same one.
So it's like you find one little clue, and suddenly you're on the trail of a whole network of potentially vulnerable systems.
Precisely. And speaking of finding clues, Yoas talks a lot about this tool called Shodan. Ever heard of it?
Shodan, it's like legendary in the cybersecurity world. Isn't that the one that's like a search engine for, well, everything?
Pretty much. Security cameras, industrial control systems, even things like, smart refrigerators. Shodan can find them all. It's kind of wild.
Smart refrigerators. Okay, that's both impressive and kind of creepy. But I guess for a bug bounty hunter, that's like striking gold.
Right. You never know where you're going to find a vulnerability. But it's not just about knowing what to look for. It's about knowing what you're seeing.
Right.
You need to be able to spot those vulnerabilities.
Okay, so let's talk vulnerabilities. Give me an example. What kind of things are these bug bounty hunters actually looking for?
So one that Yoas mentions is cross-site scripting.xss. You ever been on a website and suddenly things start getting weird, like flashing text, redirects?
Oh yeah, definitely had that happen. Usually involves a lot of frantic clicking and hoping my computer doesn't explode.
That, my friend, could be XSS. Someone sneaks some malicious code into, like a website's comment section, and then when you load the page, bam, their code executes.
So they could potentially steal my information or like take over my account.
Exactly. That's why finding and fixing these things is so important.
Yeah.
But, sometimes the vulnerabilities are a lot more subtle. Less about a website going haywire and more about, like, exploiting the logic of the system.
Exploiting the logic.
Yeah, so these are called business logic flaws. And they're interesting because It's not about hacking in the traditional sense. It's about understanding the rules of the system and finding ways to, well, bend them.
Okay, so give me an example. How do you bend the rules of a website?
Imagine finding a way to, say, order something online, but because of a coding error, you can manipulate the price to be $0.
Now that's what I call a bargain. But seriously, that's got to take some serious skill, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about randomly poking around. These guys are like code whisperers. They can look at a website and see the flaws that no one else can.
Okay, so let's say you've mapped out the landscape, you've found a vulnerability. What's next? Time to shout it from the rooftops.
Not quite. There's a right way and a wrong way to disclose this stuff, and that's where a good bug report comes in. It's about communicating the vulnerability to the company so they can fix it before anyone else finds it.
So it's like finding a treasure chest, but you got to provide the map and the instructions on how to open it. You can't just, draw a big X on a napkin and hope for the best.
Exactly. A good bug report, it's like a roadmap for developers. It tells them exactly where the problem is and how to fix it.
And that's something OWASP emphasizes in the guide, right? Clear steps to reproduce the issue, screenshots, even code snippets.
It's about making it as easy as possible for the developers to understand the problem and fix it quickly. You're not just pointing out a flaw, you're helping them make their system better.
So it's not just about technical skills. It's about communication, collaboration, and knowing how to be a good digital citizen.
Right. It's about using your powers for good. It's one thing to, find the flaw, right? But that report, that's where the rubber meets the road. Makes it real.
Yeah, it's like, what's that saying? A cure for a disease is no good if you can't get it to the people who need it.
100%. And that's where Joas's experience is so valuable. He's been on both sides of that report. He gets it. He knows what developers need to see.
So it's not just what you find, it's how you explain it.
Nailed it. And that actually, it makes me think about another thing Joas talks about, always learning. Because this bug bounty world, it's moving fast.
Always a new bug to squash.
More like new bugs, new ways to squash them, new tools, the whole 9 yards. You snooze, you lose.
So how do you keep up? Besides reading guides like this, of course.
Joas, he's big on OWASP. You familiar with him?
I see the name everywhere, but honestly couldn't tell you exactly what they do.
They're like the security gurus, mean profit, setting standards for web applications, the whole bit. They've got these resources. Free, by the way. Cheat sheets, checklists, guides for days.
So it's like Security 101, but for the pros.
And then some. Their top 10 list. Must read. They keep it updated with the nastiest security risks out there. If you're building a website or, trying to break into one.
Yeah, probably good to know what you're dealing with.
Exactly. And here's the thing I didn't expect. Joas makes this whole bug bounty thing sound kind of friendly.
Friendly. I always pictured, lone wolf hackers in dark basements.
There's probably be some of that. But he talks about this real sense of community, which makes sense when you think about it, because every bug you find, every trick you learn.
It's knowledge you can share. Everyone benefits.
Right. So you've got these forums, online groups, everyone's swapping war stories, helping each other out. It's pretty cool, actually. Shows how important people are in this whole cybersecurity thing.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's about protecting people, right?
100%. And that brings us to the big one, ethics.
Because just because you can find a vulnerability doesn't mean you should exploit it, right?
Bingo. Big difference between ethical hacking and, well, the other kind. And a lot of it comes down to understanding the rules of the game.
Rules of the game.
Each bug bounty program, they're going to tell you what's fair game, what's off limits, how to report stuff. And this responsible disclosure thing, that's huge.
Okay, break that down for me. What's responsible disclosure mean in this context?
Say you find a flaw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something big, could leak a ton of personal data. Yeah. You don't go tweeting about it. You don't plaster it on the dark web.
You go straight to the source.
Exactly. Give them a chance to fix it before things go sideways.
Yeah.
That's the ethical thing to do.
So you're not out for fame. You're out to actually protect people.
That's what separates the good guys from the bad guys,
Yeah.
It's using your skills to make the internet a little less scary, not more.
It's like great power, great responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Knowing there are folks out there, on our side, using these hacking skills for good, it's kind of reassuring,
It's the balance we need, right? For every bad guy trying to break things, there's a good guy trying to build them up. And these bug bounty hunters, they're right there on the front lines, making sure those vulnerabilities don't turn into disasters.
And it's not just about protecting my online banking from some teenager in their mom's basement. This is bigger, right? Companies, governments, the whole shebang.
Absolutely. Think about hospitals, power grids. A single vulnerability, and things could go haywire pretty fast. That's why these programs are so important. It's about companies being proactive, working with the good guys, fixing problems before they become headlines, you know?
It's like they always say, sunlight's the best disinfectant. Get those vulnerabilities out in the open, get them fixed. Makes the whole internet a safer place.
Exactly. And I think that's the key takeaway here. Bug bounty hunting. It's not about breaking things. It's about making them stronger. It's about working together, being open and honest, and making this whole digital world a little less, well, Wild West.
Well said. This has been, honestly, a fascinating look at this whole world. I've got to say, I had a lot of misconceptions about bug bounty hunting, but this has really opened my eyes. Not just the technical stuff, but the ethics of it all, the collaboration. Really interesting stuff.
It's been fun, you know. Hopefully our listeners got a taste of that. Maybe even inspired a few folks to join the good fight.
There you go. So, to all our aspiring bug bounty hunters out there, what do you say? Hone your skills, fight the good fight, and always keep learning, right? Maybe you'll be the one finding and fixing the next big vulnerability.
And if you do, come back and tell us all about it. We'll be here. Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the wild world of cybersecurity.